Jeff's version. I have not heard that directly from Jeff. And in terms of the other party to that discussion, they have a different account of that. The committee, it's up to the committee to decide whether in private it can hear directly from these people. And James Hamilton, of course, has the accounts of these people. So there is a clear difference here. The point I am making is that because of the reasons I have set out in relation to one complainant, where Alex Salmond knew about the incident because he had apologised to her, the knowledge of the identity of that complainant may well have been known, and my assumption is that it would have been known to Alex Salmond at that time for these reasons. But the particular version of this that I wasn't party to is not one that I know is accepted by the person that was in that discussion.
In response to me and to Willie Rennie at First Minister's questions, you said you had no knowledge of this at all. At what point did you speak to your senior official about this?
When there was a suggestion made about this, I can't remember the exact date, but I can check that for you if you want. I can't remember the date.
So it predated First Minister's questions?
I think you can take it as read that when I said that to the best of my knowledge, let me reiterate, I wasn't at this discussion, so
but you've
I'm
spoken,
not capable.
You've spoken to the
but
senior official.
I do not believe, based on what I have been told, that account is accurate. But that is based on not actually being party to that discussion. And as I say, there are others who will, and this committee could, I'm sure, speak privately, even if it can't do so publicly, to the individuals concerned.
So just so I'm clear, you spoke to the senior official before First Minister's questions last week, and therefore the answer you gave to both myself and to Willie Rennie wasn't necessarily strictly accurate.
Sorry, I don't follow.
Okay, it's really simple. We asked you about your knowledge about this, and you said that there was absolutely nothing happened with revealing the name of a complainer and that it was out with your knowledge. No, that's clearly not the case if you've spoken to an official in advance of our questioning last week.
I think I'd have to go back and check the official record. To the best of my knowledge, what was being alleged didn't happen, is what I was seeking to convey.
I'm sure we'll all check the official record. Can I ask, in your discussion with the senior official, did you investigate this? Was there any disciplinary process that was gone through to arrive at a conclusion that this wasn't said?
The clear view of the person who is being accused of this is that this didn't happen, and you know, I am not able to go into, for the legal constraints that I am under, the reasons why that is the case, and the reasons and what may actually be the situation here. But others can do that, and you know, James Hamilton is one of them. And I say again, I don't know of any reason why the committee cannot, at least privately, speak to the individuals concerned.
Are you not worried that a senior member of your staff was freelancing in this way?
I don't accept that characterisation.
Okay. Can I move on, convener, to the leak to the Daily Record, because this again concerns the confidentiality of complainants. When did you become aware of the leak to the Daily Record?
I became aware there had been a query to the Scottish Government from the Daily Record on sometime, I think, in the afternoon of, from memory, quite late afternoon of the 23rd of August, which is the day before the story ran in the Daily Record. That's when I became aware of it.
Okay. I think just my understanding was there were actually two stories. I think one on the 23rd and the other perhaps on the 25th, which actually had details of complainants. The first, as I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, talked about complaints against Alex Salmond, but the second leak went into details of those complaints. Where do you consider the leaks came from? Mr. Salmond believes it was somebody within your team. The ICO identified a small group of people, 23 people, that would be broadly consistent with Mr. Salmond's view. So I'm curious to know where you think the leaks came from.
I don't know where the leaks came from. I can tell you where I know they didn't come from. They didn't come from me. They didn't come from anybody acting on my authority or on my instruction or at my request. I am as certain as I can be that they didn't come from anybody within my office. As you said, the second story had some considerable detail. I heard Alex Salmond say that is detail that could only have come from the decision report. I was never sent a copy of the decision report. The one other thing I would say about this is, I've said all along, and I will keep saying, I was of the view that I should not act in a way that tried to sweep these complaints under the carpet, and therefore I would not have acted in a way that blocked any sort of public comment about the outcome of this, had it been the case that that was what the government thought was appropriate to do. That is not the same thing as saying that I wanted this to be in the public domain. Since I first became aware of what Alex Salmond was facing, the thought of it becoming public, the thought of having to comment on it, horrified me. Absolutely horrified me. Made me feel physically sick. I would have been perfectly relieved, very relieved if it was legitimate and it wasn't because I was trying to sweep it under the carpet. If it had never come out into the public domain, there was no part of me wanted proactively to see that get into the public domain. I had nothing to gain from it and only a lot of pain and grief associated with it.
Okay. My understanding is your office was sent a copy of the decision report, and so the leak contained confidential information about the two women involved, and I think we would both agree that that is a matter of very serious concern and regret. I have, however, been told that the Daily Record were given the story of the complaints about Alex Salmond in order to spike another story that they had about you. Is that remotely true? That is not even something I had heard before. Can I just say, your understanding that you started that question with, as I think you know, is inaccurate, that my office wasn't sent a copy of the decision report. My principal private secretary, when he appeared before the committee, wrote afterwards just to confirm that, because I think there had been some confusion between the letter that the permanent secretary wrote me on the 22nd of August to tell me that the investigation had concluded and what was happening there. But my office was not and has not since been shared a copy of the decision report. So just to be clear about that, and I think the committee has been made very clear about that too. So now you can tell me what the story was about me that I was trying to spike. I was asking. I'm
intrigued.
You, and I wouldn't reveal that publicly without checking with you.
Just think how implausible that. I've never heard that before, so that's a new part of the conspiracy that I'm hearing today for the first time. But imagine how implausible that is. So we have an investigation that starts with 2 complaints against Alex Salmond that the government is investigating, throughout much of that year, and we just managed to time the culmination to spike some unknown story about me. That's an incredible coincidence, which is why it didn't happen.
Indeed, it is an incredible coincidence, but it gives you an opportunity to rebut that, which is very helpful. But can I take you back to the seriousness of the leak? Wherever it came from, it was clearly really concerning. Why didn't you or anybody on your behalf report the matter to the police?
Well, firstly, I agree about how concerning the leak is. It's one of many aspects of this that deeply troubles me because I don't know where it came from. And, as you put aside the serious nature of the issue we're dealing with, it always troubles a politician when they don't know where a leak comes from. But I don't. What I do know is that I would not have wanted, if you'd given me the chance of this whole sorry matter never been in the public domain, legitimately, I would have bitten your hand off for that. I never wanted to be publicly commenting on allegations of this nature against Alex Salmond. There is no part of me wanted to be in that position. It's also the case that the government didn't benefit in any way from this leak. Now, okay, I appreciate that's with hindsight, but It was this leak that has allowed some people from day one almost to cast the government as the aggressor, the guilty party on this. So I don't know where the leak came from. I emphatically know it did not come from me or anybody acting on my authority or instruction. In terms of there obviously was investigations within the Scottish Government, and Mr Salmond raised the matter, reported the matter to the Information Commissioner's office. There was an investigation and then I think a review of that investigation by the Information Commissioner's office, including by, and forgive me if I'm not getting the terminology right, its criminal investigation section, and they did not find evidence that it had come from within the Scottish Government.
My recollection is that they did, and it was a limited number of people that it could have come from. But I'm not going to argue the point with you. My question was, why wasn't it reported to the police?
I don't know the answer to that question. I'm happy to go away and reflect and think. I don't know whether that was something we considered. It wasn't, as far as I'm aware, reported to the police by the Scottish Government. Can I just, in terms of the ICO investigation decision letter, which is dated the 6th of March 2020, we are satisfied that there is no evidence to corroborate the complaint that an employee of the Scottish Government unlawfully obtained and disclosed personal data relating to Mr Salmond. We're also satisfied that there is no evidence that the Scottish Government acted in breach of Article 5.1 of the regulation in relation to the processing of Mr Salmond's personal data. Mr Salmond has pointed to, and I probably won't be able to find this now, a comment, I think, when the decision was being reviewed at his request, where somebody said they were sympathetic to the hypothesis that it could have come from within the Scottish Government, but they had no evidence of that. And in fact, they expressly said that there was also, it could also be said that there was a possibility that it came from other sources as well. So to say that the Information Commissioner said that it came from the Scottish Government, I would put to you, Ms Bailey, is not true.
Can I then ask you again, First Minister, who else knew about this? Who else had details of the complaints that would have leaked that to the press?
So in terms of the numbers of people or the identities of people within the Scottish Government who would have had access to the decision report, I would have to sort of check and give that to you. I did not have access to the decision report. My office didn't have access to the decision report. I think you've heard evidence that the matter was referred through the Crown Agent to the police, but as I understand it, the police didn't take a copy of the decision report. Mr Salmond and his lawyers obviously had a copy of the decision report. I say that simply as a statement of fact. I do not know where the leak came from, and I cannot say that emphatically enough. I wish I did know where the leak came from, like every